Hey guys, it's Luke and this is another tips and tricks video. This video is a little different from my past ones. Instead of just listing a few random techniques I found useful, I compiled a list of tips and tricks from the pros. I looked at a bunch of streamers, content creators, and professional players and got the tips and tricks from them. For example, I analyzed players like Fade, Lyric, and Asu and looked for something they do that is useful or unique. So what I will do is explain the full trick and the player it came from. I included a way to improve your muscle memory, a trick on becoming a better W keyer, and a few cheeky ways to play around doors. The first player in this video is the controller god rig Jen Burton. Jen Burton's big claim to fame is his aim. He is on a controller so he has aim assist, but that is not the reason for his godly aim. Jen Burton makes use of several different tricks to improve his tracking and aiming in different situations. The one I will be showing today is more subtle but still an insanely useful trick that allows for absolute accuracy while hip firing. It's pretty simple and easy to do, but it seems like not a lot of people know about it or just don't use it in game. All you have to do is start by aiming down sights and then go directly into hip firing without stopping your spray. The amount of time you ADS doesn't matter, so keep that in mind. This trick also only works with automatic weapons. Jen Burton mostly uses this trick in 50-50s when he sees the enemy and the enemy also sees him. Instead of just ADSing and hoping he hits more shots, he uses this trick which allows him to strafe while still being able to aim in. The last thing to note is that the time you have full accuracy is limited before the weapon goes back into the normal inaccurate hip fire spray. But you can always just ADS again and the trick restarts. The next trick comes from a player named Uris. Uris is a Pathfinder main often credited with being the most aggressive pro on Apex. The thing that makes Uris so special is his ability to W key on any legend. Most people, like me, stick to their mains and play a few other legends every once in a while, but not Uris. He switches his legend almost every game, but still keeps his aggro playstyle. On legends without a movement ability, that's extremely challenging. This forces him to rely on his mechanics and game sense. In addition, it helps him greatly when he plays his main Pathfinder. Now, instead of having to hold on to the grapple, if he gets in trouble, he can use it to get into fights. This allows him to surprise the opponent and get free damage. If you want to be like Uris and become a better W keyer so you can get those 4K 20 bomb badges, I highly suggest getting comfortable pushing people on a legend without the ability to get out of fights, like Crypto, Watson, or Lifeline. Building muscle memory is one of the most important things when it comes to improving your aim in Apex Legends. A streamer slash YouTuber called Matchin discovered a very interesting way to improve muscle memory: iron sights. Since iron sights use your basic sensitivity and are harder to see with, they build muscle memory way faster than using a normal optic. The reason for this is that the actual sight takes up more of your screen, so you have less peripheral vision. This forces you to rely more on muscle memory to judge when your crosshair will be on your target, because you can't see what you're aiming at until you're about to shoot. Matchin realized this and only practiced aiming and firing range with iron sights. His muscle memory eventually got so good that he now only uses iron sights in real games and has insane aim. I don't recommend only using iron sights in games, but I do suggest that whenever you are in firing range, you only use iron sights. This will build your muscle memory way faster, which will help you when doing simple tracking and flicks. It will also help you to get more familiar with your sensitivity, so all of your movements are as precise as they can be. A lot of pro players realize this as well, which is why you often see them choosing iron sights over real ones. Now, if you see a pro like TSM Imperial Hal remove the digi threat from his Peacekeeper, you know why. Next comes one of the best movement players in the game, EU Lyric. Lyric has a creative and useful trick that he showcased in his full movement guide that I thought I would bring here and show you. It looks like this. All you do is climb up the wall and bounce off. When you climb up the wall, it baits your opponent into pushing or confuses them enough so when you fall back down, you will have free shots on them. This trick is a really creative way to outplay your opponent. Thank you for teaching me this lyric. Next up is the absolute movement god, Fade, with a few tips for playing doors. When it comes to playing doors, the key is getting a shot off on your opponent without them getting a shot on you. Fade's first technique for doing this is when there's a double door or the opponent is playing slightly off the door, or if a down player or death box is blocking it. In most of these situations, the door can be opened slightly. This allows for a tiny space to get shots through that the opponent will not be expecting. It also makes it hard to get damage after your original shot because you have cover to duck into. Another nice tip for playing doors that Fade often uses to outplay his opponent is the wall climb strategy. How it works is you climb the wall directly next to your door or the door itself. Most of the time, the enemy will open the door and just rush in. You need to be prepared for that, and as you hear the door open, jump off and shoot them midair. The last Fade door technique is just to simply run away from the door. 9 times out of 10, your opponent will open it, and as soon as you hear them, you can whip around and one-clip them with the R9. Fade also sometimes uses this trick to get to the other side of doors, which is pretty interesting. The next trick has to do with climbing. Climbing is a mechanic that gets often overlooked in fights. I think most people are afraid to climb because it leaves you exposed. If you watch Energy Asu, though, you are probably not among that group. Asu is constantly trying to find alternative paths and is rewarded by surprising enemies for easy shots. Climbing is probably the easiest way in Apex Legends to get free entry damage or knocks. Asu even says in his movement guide that almost every building in the game has alternate ways of navigating it and getting to the top, so I encourage you to get creative and find angles through climbing. The last tip comes from the Japanese player Selly. Selly is probably the calmest player I've ever seen. When he's in a bad position and on the brink of death, he never even flinches. He just takes his time and hits his shots. Something I personally struggle with is when I'm on low HP or getting shot at by multiple people, I panic and forget about the basics. I miss my shots and die. Watching Selly reminded me that almost always the best way to get out of bad situations is a simple crouch strafe and then taking your time to hit your shots. Strafing side to side with a crouch in the middle is something almost every Apex player knows how to do, but often forgets about in the heat of the moment. Selly showed me that sometimes winning a 1v3 or surviving on a single HP doesn't come down to some crazy play. All it takes is the basics. That has been my list of pro tips and tricks in Apex Legends. All of the players that I mentioned in this video are linked in the description. I encourage you to check them out. They're all super good players that I enjoy watching. If you thought this was a good video, please like and subscribe, and also comment on what you think because I'm debating on making a part 2. I also just made a movement guide with some super juicy movement techniques you probably didn't know about. Thank you for watching.